I'll just share my screen. So yeah, this is the basic software architecture diagrams. So there are four user management user roles here: owner, admin, manager, and annotator. So they'll all be accessing this Shoonya annotation and data platform to perform data collection as well as data annotation. So this is the high level diagram. And so this Shoonya is developed using this Django REST framework in the backend and React JS in the front end. So this owner, admin, manager, and annotator, they can all access these components to perform that. So and the database used for Shoonya is PostgreSQL, and the storage is done on Azure Blob. So the front end components, we can basically divide it into the dashboards, which will show the organization page, workspaces page, and the projects, and the annotation UI. This will show the place where the labeling or say task, all those annotation tasks like say translation or transliteration can be done. So those will be shown in the annotation UI. There will be pages like login page, the user profile page, and all that. And the data manager, so this will show the say the task list in a tabulated form. So it is used for that purpose. And Shunya backend components. So this user management, it basically has the invite system through which we invite new users to the platform, and they can also reset their password. And the authentication, once the user is done, once the user is authenticated, they can access the platform. And if it is an organization owner or a workspace manager, they can go ahead and create the projects for annotation. And if it is an annotator, they can perform the annotation using this platform. So this so highest in this user management hierarchy is this organization. So an organization owner can access the organization page through which he or she can invite users to the platform. So workspace manager can go ahead and manage the workspaces within the organization, and they can add users to the project and assign the task to them. And this project creation, so a project will have multiple annotation tasks. So and those are and once a project is created using a data set, the tasks are automatically created in the back end, and users are assigned to it, and they can perform the annotation. And this task management, so the task management is where the annotations are being managed. So the annotator to whom a task is assigned can perform this annotation, and the result will get saved here. So data set management is where the data to be annotated is being stored, so that is being handled here.
So just a quick question, Aparna.
Yeah.
So I think I already saw that demo video of the tool as such, but
Mhm.
for the existing annotators,
Hmm.
so you just set up one organization for all of them.
Yes, right now, yes, one organization, but different workspaces based on their language.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay,
that
and
is what.
the okay, and what's the actual difference between project management and so task? Like I believe that's at a more granular level, right? So it might be transliteration or translation, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So how do I differentiate workspace and project? So
So
what
a
do
workspace will have different projects, each belonging to a separate specific type, like say OCR project or this translation editing project kind of thing.
Mhm.
So at each project, we'll be sampling data set from the main data source. So and each project will have like multiple rows of data to be say translated. So each translation task will be stored in the task management part.
Okay.
Mm, yeah, is it clear or?
Uh,
Hmm.
Sorry, I got a call in between. Sorry, I missed that. So, okay. So, task, I think that's the that's clear. Workspace, I think you mentioned that that's tied to a language. I
Yes.
think that is fine.
Hmm.
So, the project management is what this.
So like yeah, project management will be like each project will have a specific type asset. So if an OCR project is created, it will have just the OCR tasks in that. And if it is a translation project, it will have just the translation tasks in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there can be okay.
Mm.
So when do I create multiple projects? Because like obviously like what is the need for that layer? That's what my question is.
So like this, say for example, Hindi workspace is there. So a
Mm-hmm.
Hindi workspace can have a translation project as well as this data collection project. So each will be a different project type.
Okay. Under that there could be multiple tasks for that.
Task. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arvind, what was the question? Sorry, I was not listening in.
So the purpose for introducing the project management layer. So workspace, yeah, I think that's that language. So task is
Okay.
clear. So just curious on the purpose of.
Yeah, so task is one unit of work, right? One unit of annotation. A
Mhm.
project is a sequence of such tasks,
Oh, okay, okay. So
right?
okay, this is atomic one, and that's a group of okay. Let's say
Hmm.
there are 50 translation that's comes under a project, and under that you have 50 tasks.
Yes, yes. I mean, yes, correct. So when we say task management, we deal everything to do with individual translations. How do you assign them, and so on, right? So we are zooming
Oh,
into a project.
got it.
Whereas the project is at the level of, okay, so here is a translation task. It should pull data from here and write data here, right? That level of thing.
Mhm.
Workspace is a collection of projects, typically with some grouping, which could be language wise or it could be people wise. And
Mhm.
organization is the overall thing.
Okay, got it. Yeah, please go ahead, Aparna.
Yeah. So and the script management. So this task manager, it is used to update or pre-populate the task columns, and script functions and all we'll be implementing in the next release as such. So I'll just take you to the GitHub repository of the code now. This is the backend repository. So since we are developing this using Django REST framework,
So one second,
yeah,
Aparna, maybe we
yeah,
just give some time for the team to ask any questions that they may have.
okay.
Um, any questions on the overall? I
Please.
think firstly the vocabulary, right? Vocabulary that we are using.
Yeah, it's fine, Pratyush. I think we can go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, please go ahead, Aparna.
Yeah, okay. So each of these workspace management, organization management, so everything is a separate module here. So let us start with this organization. So if you can see the organization model, so that this is mapped to the field in the databases. So this organization model basically has the title. Then it shows whether this organization is active and who created it. And then, so yeah, and this function is used to invite users to the organization. That is it. So the views will have the API endpoints for the organization management. So yeah. So this is for fetching the users from the organization. So these kind of things. Next is the workspace module. So the workspace model, if you can see, a workspace will belong to an organization, so that is there, and the users belonging to the workspace is also listed here. Name of the workspace and whether this workspace is archived or not, and each workspace will have its own manager, so that is being assigned here, and the one who created the workspace is being stored. So the views file will have the API endpoints of the workspace. So apart from the basic CRUD operations, there are like two endpoints. One is for assigning a manager to the workspace. So this API endpoint is used for assigning a manager to a workspace. And the other one is used for archiving the workspace. And we can also retrieve the list of projects belonging to a workspace through this view set. Next is projects. So before that, yeah, I guess I'll just cover the data set. Mm. So this data set model, here is where the data to be annotated or the data which is collected for annotation is stored here. So these are the data set type choices currently being supported. Sentence text, which will have separate sentences, which can be used in, say, a translation project or a transliteration project as needed. Then translation pair is the project type in which the given machine translation of a sentence is verified by the user. OCR document is used for doing OCR annotation. Block text is where block text of data is collected, a text which has multiple sentences in it. So that is done. Mhm. So this data set instance will have the data set instance ID initially, and also this parent instance ID will show the source from where we got the data. Like say for example, this a block text is being split into multiple sentences. So the sentence, so those sentences will be saved in the sentence text, and the parent ID of that will be assigned to will be this block text ID from where we got the initial sentence. Then, so the organization to which the data set belongs, the workspace ID, everything will be allotted here. Then, so these are all the separate models for each type of data, sentence text. So, which will have the text that is the sentence, the domain to which it belongs, whether it is profane or not. So, once we implement those checks, those fields will be marked. Translation pair is where the input language, so the language of the given sentence, output language to which it has to be translated, and we have this input text. So output text will be the translated text. Machine translation is the one which is machine generated for this sentence. And context is where the sentence came from. So it will be like a few lines long instead of just a single sentence, so that the user can translate it in a better way. So LAPSI score rating will be implemented in the further releases. And OCR document. So this will have the file type, file URL, the image URL, and the page number of that document, the language, and the type choices, domain of OCR, and this annotation B boxes. So the bounding boxes for which this OCR annotation is being done. So then the transcript and this prediction JSON will have the prediction of this OCR. Block text. So this is the block of text, and that is actually split into sentences and stored here. So, and that can be verified by the user, and each sentences are split and stored. And domain shows the domain to which the sentence belongs, the block text belongs as such. So for this, the API endpoints are created in this views.py. So this will list the data set instances, and we can get the data items which belongs to this here. And yeah, so this has the basic CRUD operations. So now this data set is being used for creating a project as such. So the model of the projects has all the fields. So first is the title, then the description of the project, then one who created this project, then the users are belonging. So it will be the annotation users primarily who can do the annotation of the data in this project. Then the organization ID, workspace ID. Dataset ID is from where is the ID of the dataset from where we are sampling the data for this project, and whether this project is archived or not, whether it is published or not. And these things are currently not implemented. So expert instructions on how to do the annotation as such, and whether the instruction has to be shown to the annotator or not. Show skip button is whether this annotator can skip this project, and show predictions to annotator is whether the annotator can see the model predictions or not. So these things are currently not supported in this release. And this filter string is for filtering the data for the project. Label config is, so we are actually using the label studio front end for the annotation for the users to perform annotation. So that UI config, so that is actually mentioned here as a string here. Then color is not supported now. Sampling mode is like, so sampling mode, actually we have three types here: full, batch, and random. So when we select the sampling mode as full, the entire data belonging to the data set is used in the project. And when it is batch, so we can just select a batch of data from that. And if it is random, we can just specify the fraction. So and that fraction and that percentage of data is sample for the project. So those are clearly mentioned here in the sampling parameter JSON. Then data type is not there. Project type, so that will be this, whether it is translation, editing, or OCR document kind of thing. Project mode is whether this project is an annotation or collection project. So we are, so that is for collecting the monolingual data. Variable parameters is like some projects have output language and some won't have that. So if there are types which are going to vary with each project, that is mentioned here. Metadata JSON will have metadata details for the project. And required annotations per task is how many annotators can work on a task. So that is it. And this views.py. So apart from getting the list of projects and also, the main thing which is happening here is creating tasks from data items. So upon creation of a project, what we do is we automatically create the tasks out of the project data set. So like say there are 10 sentences in the data set, so 10 different tasks will be created from this, and each will be populated in the task table. So that is being done here. Then so project view said it will show the list of projects belonging to the user. This is for removing a user from the project. Then creating the project, so that is where, so all the parameters listed in the model is being used to create the project. Then this is for updating the project detail, and this is for like archiving the project. And this is for getting the project users, and this is for getting the list of tasks which belong to this project. And this endpoint is used for adding the users to the project. So after creation, we usually add the annotators to the project. And these are all the types of projects which are there, like translation, or that those types can be fished. So this pull new data items, this is currently not yet implemented in the front end. So after a project is published, created and published, we can pull more data items from the dataset instance to this project. So that is supported here. Then this is for exporting a project's result. So the project annotation result as such is exported to the main data set. So the initially say a translation task is happening. So the output translation is saved in the annotation table. So that result is finally exported back to the data set instance. So that is being done here. Then project publish is, so once a project has users assigned to it, only then we can publish it. And only after a project is published, an annotator can start annotating the tasks in it. So upon clicking this publish button, what happens is we get the list of annotators within the project, and then the task is equally distributed. The number of tasks in it is equally distributed among all the annotators present in the project, and then it is marked as published. So that is being done here. Next will be the mm, task. So
Aparna,
yeah.
one question. So all the model files
Mhm.
that you showed, so
Mm.
these are directly the fields of database, like through Django ORM.
Yes, yeah. These are all the fields of
So
database Django model.
custom ORM is used or Django ORM is used?
Sorry.
Any like customization is done, or the Django relational mapper is used directly?
These are all custom fields created by us.
Uh, Not fields, like the ORM that is used, that is the Django
Oh,
ORM,
okay.
right?
I think Gokul or someone can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so this is the default ORM. Yeah, so we are not using any
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
yeah.
And Aparna, so if I understand the pipeline correctly, so
Mm.
the original data sets which are like those into the dataset model, those are
Mm.
pre-task, right? The tasks have to be they have to be annotated, then they will be saved.
Yes, yeah.
And they will be saved into which model?
So
After,
initially it will be saved into this annotation model. Then upon exporting this project, then the output will get exported to the dataset instance.
that is a different model from the original data sets.
It depends. So for some projects it will be a different model, but for this projects like this translation editing, wherein we are verifying the given machine translation, it will be in the same model.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And one more thing. So the project, like let's see, like you said, like a data set has 10 sentences.
Hmm.
So the project will create 10 tasks.
Yes, correct.
So why do we need a separate entity for task? If like, is there a scope of partial project completion? Like five of those sentences are annotated and rest are not? Or like,
Yes, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can actually skip an annotation and not do
okay,
that also. Yeah.
okay, okay. Makes
So the
sense.
user will see one annotation task at a time and perform it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So this task model, so the task state is, if you see currently we are supporting just this accepted, rejected, sorry, accepted, unlabeled, and skipped. So if a user performs an annotation, it is marked as accepted. So if they choose to skip the task, it will be marked as skipped, and initially it will be unlabeled. So these are the things. So it has the task ID and the data, then the project to which it belongs to, and the input data of the annotation task, and the output data. Then this correct annotation is where the annotation result will be stored once the user does the annotation, and the annotation users are the users to whom the tasks are assigned. So once review user, currently we are not we have still not implemented it, but once we implement it, so that is where the validator id will get stored. And yeah, so task status I already told about earlier. Metadata will be the metadata of the task field, task model. So this assign will assign the users to the task. Then this is for locking the task when a user is performing an annotation. So that is there. And these are all for releasing the lock and all that. So these are for populating the prediction. So this data export is for exporting the annotation result to be exported to the dataset instance. This is for exporting it as a CSV file. So views will have the API endpoints for assigning a task, for getting the annotations belonging to a particular task. So yeah, it's all those basic CRUD operations here. So the annotation model is also a part of that. So one second, I think I missed out showing that. So yeah, the annotation model is also a part of this task model. It has the ID, the result of the annotation, which is done by the annotator, the task to which it belongs, and the person who completed it, and the lead time. So when it was completed. So yeah, that is about it. Any questions here? So this is the basic backend flow.
So where does it link to the data ingestion part, like the like web scraping or like all the collection methods? So how where does the dataset model get populated with that? That code is not part of this repo.
So that is happening. So while project creation, we are getting the data and populating it.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the create project. So here is where the data items are sampled and created.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So create task from data item. So here we get it and we do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So the front end repo, I think someone else will be handling it.
Hi, so Rukmit was going to handle the front end repo. Seems his power cut in his area. So he said he'll be joining shortly.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, go on, Dheeraj, sorry.
Yeah, nothing else. Please go.
Yeah, Dheeraj, you are about to say something, right? Please go on.
No, no, that's fine. I was just so about
Hmm.
from the deployment perspective, like, is there some documentation there? Like, how is this deployed as a single application, or like how many servers, like that, that information? Hello, am I
Yeah, yeah.
audible?
Yeah, so as of now, we are planning to, I mean, as of now, we are hosting the front end using Azure Web Apps, and the back end is just plainly used, uh, hosted using a Docker file on a VM. So I guess Abhigyan can explain this in more detail.
Okay.
Abhigyan?
Yeah, Gokul. So yeah, currently we have deployed only on a single VM as a container.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, full-fledged scalable deployment has not yet been done, but the plan is that for front end, at least we can use Azure static web app for deployment, and backend app. Yeah, let's see. I mean, we have not yet decided whether we should have our own Kubernetes or yeah, how to deploy it. Yeah, for now it's running on a VM.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so, guys, do you have any other question? Saroj, Arvind?
No, Dheeraj.
So Arvind is in a call, it seems. So yeah, we can. Is there's nothing pending? We can conclude. So for front end, maybe. So you're saying we'll connect another time for the front end walkthrough?
Yeah, maybe we'll have to connect some other time as hasn't joined again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, or I can just quickly show you the repo. It is okay. Just the high level.
Yeah. Actually, the front end developer from our team is one person is also missing. So
Mm-hmm.
she'll be back
Okay.
tomorrow, I think. So it's better to, yeah, we can move it to tomorrow.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sounds good.
So anything else to add, Arvind, Pratyush, or we can wrap this up?
Yeah, so one more thing is that, so yeah, based on your understanding of I mean, whatever we have built on Shoonya, I think uh, we'll be further explaining you the tasks which we can take up for the upcoming sprint. So, yeah, so maybe we can have that discussion now itself, or if required, we can have it later. What do you think?
Yeah, so the task from our side will be like the walkthrough. We'll go through this code and
Mm, mm.
try to understand. And if there are like no major doubts on our side, then we can, yeah, plan the tasks. So yeah, we'll
Yeah, sure.
we'll connect internally and yeah, do that
Yeah, so we were also thinking that we can start the sprint from next week, Monday. Yeah, so it's
next
not,
week. Okay, okay,
yeah, Monday. Yeah.
fine. Then we'll try aim to do the planning for that on a by this week only.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
also, do
Rigved
you
is
want?
back. So I just checked that Rigved is back. Rigved, is the power working at your end?
Yeah, I just came back.
Cool, cool, right. So what I suggest, Dheeraj, let's do the front end part also. Please request your folks to look at the recording. And while we may start the sprint next week, it may be good to, just start, use the rest of this week to figure out the code structure and so on, because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not really a project that is starting, right? We have spent a couple of months on it. So there will be some bad code here and there, bad practices here and there. So it'll be good for you to all to take a deep look at it, right?
Sure.
Does that
Sure.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Rigved. I think the team is waiting to hear about how the front end is designed, the code structure.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen. So to begin with, we have written our code in React.js by using Create React app, and we have used and design as our base UI library. The reason for this is being we are using another library called as Label Studio. So it offers annotation uh, tools and everything. So we don't have to rewrite or reinvent the wheel. So we decided that we'll use Label Studio's annotation UI itself. So that uses and design as well. So to keep UI consistency and just using one UI library across the board, we went with and design. So the code is structured in a pretty simple way. So in SRC folder, there are different folders for components, pages. So pages, so app.js is the main, actually index.js is the main entry point for the code. And then in routes.js, you can see all the different pages of the front end. So we have used React Router DOM for this. Uh, and all the different routes are specified here. So if you want to check out uh, a page for something specific, you can just go through like what URL is for what page. And then in pages, there are all different kinds of pages. So let's say organization page or profile page, and the individual components which are being used for these uh, pages, like maybe something which is being reused. So let's say layout is being reused, like navbar and other things. So that we have defined in components. So that is how we have structured our basic folder structure. And apart from that, for data fetching, we are currently using Axios now, and we are manually handling everything. So if I can just show you some of the code. Uh, so let's say, for example, I'm trying to fetch users for this. So this is the code for an organization page, and I'm trying to fetch users of the organization of which the user is a part of. So it is calling a function which is being imported from the API. So we have written APIs separate from the component code, because maybe tomorrow if we want to add like some different data fetching library, let's say React Query or SWR, which can make things a bit more efficient, we can do that directly without not disturbing our other code as well. uh, so it this is being referenced from, I think, the user API. No, I think it's the organization API, and then we are using Axios here. So we have also defined an Axios instance of our own. So we are not using the default Axios instance, as we have uh, JWT authentication for the front end. So uh, if you want to see that code as well, it's in utils. So in SRC utils, we have written the API Axios instance code. So what this does is basically it intercepts and checks if the access token has expired, then it will get a new access token, or if the refresh token has expired, then the user will log out. So yeah, we have not kind of perfected this code yet. There are a few minor issues, but we are planning to fix them. Uh, then apart from that, like we have used context for our state management in React. So we didn't go with anything like Redux, because we also had planned that we may use a React query. So if you're, let's say you're using React query, we don't really need to do um, state management using Redux. So for now, we used context, which was sufficing for us, because we just wanted user data to be persistent across all the components. So the context code is written here, and it is written in a way just like Redux. So if someone is familiar with Redux, they can also read the code uh, quite well and not feel uh, like something else here. So all the code regarding login, registering, and everything for the user itself is here, because it is dealing with the user state which is persistent across all the components. Yeah. uh, so are there any questions till now?
So how do you show that permissions, like a particular user does not have any permission to see this content?
So right now we only have 3 roles. which is annotator, manager, and organization owner. Uh,
Mm.
so in backend, we are always checking. So if you are trying to um, hit an endpoint and you don't have a permission for it, you'll get like that don't have permissions. And in the front end, we have just used conditional rendering directly. So I'll just show you maybe an example in landing.jsx. So we have predefined roles and our roles is static, so we didn't need to do much dynamic code. So let's say for example here I'm checking the user role, and if the user role is 2 or either 3, then only show him the component which is responsible for rendering the workspaces. So we are using conditional rendering here as we have data on the user and we ourselves know what permissions are there for an annotator or a manager. So as even these permissions are not varying as much because
So these are hard coded, right? These
yes,
are
yes, yes,
the role
yeah,
equal to two.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that
Okay.
is how we are doing it with it. And in backend also we are checking the same thing. So if the person has the role for which it has permission or not to access that specific endpoint or the data.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So yeah, pretty much most of the UI is very. We try to keep it very clean and neat. Uh, but in like is I'll just show you the code of the LSF tool. So basically, this is the annotation UI which we are using from Label Studio. Uh, so it uses something called as Label Studio frontend, which is again just an npm package we imported, and wrote we kind of try to change it in some way where it fits our uh, platform, and this is the code here. So this is actually most of the things are written directly from the reference of the documentation itself. um, so here we have defined all the different types of interfaces which we would require from Label Studio's UI annotation tool itself. So we can just specify what interfaces or like what kind of UI we want to design, and for different types of tasks, this annotation LSF basically expects you to pass on a template, and that template is also basically a React snippet. It's actually an XML, but it is technically rendering a React snippet directly. So we have all these different templates for different tasks of annotation. Let's say OCR or translation in our backend already designed, and we just send it to the front end, and the front end LSF handles goes through that template and renders it accordingly. So that is how it's done. Pratyush sir, is there anything else? Do I have to like maybe explain in more detail, or just an overview is okay?
No, this was good, Rigved. I think you covered in reasonable detail. But yeah, but as the team starts getting onboarded, I think they'll have questions. Any question at the moment?
Yeah.
I think
Do you guys follow any particular list of steps to set up the code?
As in run the code in the front end or start
Yes.
writing a component.
Uh, Set up the code in the local environment. So
So we are using Docker right now. So we are using Docker to run our code in our local environments as well. So we have written Docker compose files for front end and back end. So it's just one command to run everything.
uh, okay.
Uh, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Rigved.
Okay. Uh, is there anything else?
No.
If not, then I'll stop sharing my screen.
yeah, I think this was good, Rupit. So
Thank
our
you.
one front end developer is out, so maybe we'll take some time to go through this code, and we'll come back with any if we have any major doubts or.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So Arvind, was this good? Did we get a sense of the code?
Yeah, yeah, Pratish. I think this is a good start. So probably like I think as a first step, the members can try to set the code in local. Yeah, and then probably like we'll see like how to fine tune some of the things, and probably yeah, this might be a collaborative work going forward. I think.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, cool. Thanks to all of you for participating. Thanks for Gokul and Ritwik for presenting. One thing, Arvind, is shall we then in a smaller group have just a quick session where we discuss what the plan is? Maybe right now others maybe need to look at the code, etc.
Hmm.
But we can maybe you could stay back, and anyone else that you think, and maybe Gokul can stay back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that works. All
So
right.
we are
Yeah.
at 4:40 something. So maybe before, maybe we have time until 5,
Uh-huh.
and we can have a quick discussion.
Okay, sure. That works. All right. Yeah. Thank you, team. So probably yeah, that's a useful session. Probably I forgot to stop the recording. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. So, let's see.
Thank you.
So Pratish, just a second. Let me rejoin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
guys.
sure. Karthik, you're in Chennai or in Bangalore? Yeah, Arvind, it's still recording, right? The
Oh yeah. So okay.
maybe it's okay. I mean, there's nothing secret here. I just didn't want to waste many people's
No,
time.
no. I thought it will end as soon as I quit.